Good afternoon. I'm John Wuorinen. I'm the Director of Admissions and Tuition Assistance here at Columbus Academy. Welcome to another edition of our Zoom at Noon series. Today we're talking about STEM and STEAM and innovation with two middle school teachers, and they'll introduce themselves in just a second. But did want to mention, if you have questions during the program, please ask those in the chat box, in the question and answer box. And Anika Littell is curating our session this afternoon, and she will share those questions with us as this all goes on. So good to have you with us. And without further ado, we have Todd Martin here. Todd, sure. Why don't you introduce yourselves? And
I'm the Technology Integration Specialist for the school. I'm in my 17th year here at Academy, and I'm also the manager of the MakerSpace.
And you have children here.
Yes, I have three children who attend, one in second grade, a sixth grader, and a current freshman.
So, and then
I'm Luke Howard. I am the middle school, so 6th, 7th, and 8th grade innovation teacher. This is my 4th year here, and I have no kids at the school.
but a strong history of lacrosse playing.
Yes, right here at Ohio State.
Well, so STEM, it's a bit of a trendy term. STEAM, you add the arts to it. STEM, just to make sure, science, technology, engineering, and math. And then STEAM, adding the art component, do a little creativity. Those are, again, a little bit trendy, a little bit, sort of catch-all phrases. We have those things here. We've had them for many, many years. Tell me a little bit, if you would. There's a formal curriculum that we have going on. Luke, you're part of, but then there's also the informal stuff. Why don't we talk about the formal piece first?
Sure. Starting with our lower school, kindergarten through 3rd grade, would take a technology course, and that's outside of their normal science class they would take or math. And once they get into 4th and 5th grade, they have a technology and making course, which would add more of kind of the coding and computational thinking, as well as some CAD design and more of the kind of the design process. As things ramp up in middle school, we have innovation course that happens in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade as part of our allied program. And then in 8th grade, we add on a STEAM computational thinking course. And then as students progress up into the upper school, we have a very robust computer science program here at CA, as well as robotics and electronics courses that are offered as electives in their junior and senior years.
Cool. So we're here actually in the middle school MakerSpace. So when you Anika, can you push us back to the picture of, you've got slides there, but here we are in the MakerSpace. You see over behind me lots of 3D printers, and there's all sorts of equipment. Luke, you use all this stuff on a daily basis with the innovation. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that's one of the great things about CA, right? Is we have, you guys can see, we have all woodworking equipment. We have 2 CNC machines. What was it, 19 3D printers at this point
19?
Throughout the whole school? Yes, with just 6 right there. So that's obviously amazing resources that we have. Laser cutters as well, painting supplies, pretty much anything that you could ask for in a makerspace we have here. And so getting to use all this equipment, it's like being in a candy store, right? For those that like to make things.
You said CNC machine. What?
So a CNC router, CNC stands for computer numerical control. And so with a CNC router machine, it just uses a router bit, and it allows us to cut larger woodworking projects, more structural objects, versus the laser cutter, which allows us to do more like rapid prototyping, quick designs with plywood and cardboard. So it just allows the kids to make bigger, more robust projects.
So tell us a little more about those. Sound pretty fun and interesting for the kids. It's like a big shop class. Tell us a little bit more about grades 6, 7, and 8, and what goes on in the innovation course in there.
Yes, and so, right, some people might call it a glorified shot class, but I think what separates a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade innovation class from just a typical shot class is essentially the design thinking, the problem solving that we do with our students, and things like material exploration, where we allow the kids to use all the materials in the makerspace, where they can go from, hey, they're going to understand how to use things like scissors and hot glue guns, and paper and cardboard, and expose them to just more materials, things like epoxy, a leather, vinyl, things that they wouldn't know outside of this. And so explore materials is a great thing. And then that design thinking and that problem solving with a variety of different projects that we work on through the year, from working hands-on with equipment, but then also using things like Tinkercad, which is 3D modeling software, which then takes them to using our 3D printers. And so we explore all those concepts, and then we push it too into things like spheros, which are small robotic moving spheres that they can both like code or hand move around. And so that allows them to also explore the world of robotics in the class.
Super. When you mention coding, or the what are they called? The spheros?
Spheros, yeah.
Spheros. That is again an introduction to coding. How much coding goes on in the lower middle schools before the high school?
Sure. So kids are introduced to more block coding and kind of systematic pseudocode in 4th and 5th grade, usually using like a website like code.org, or using the spheros through a maze. And then once you get into the 6th grade, we'll be taking robots, adding more of kind of like loops, and working with like if-else statements, or working with more variables. And that builds on itself with our Lego. We have a whole wide range of Lego robotics. This last week we actually introduced drones. To the we have like what's called a Bot Builders Club activity that meets every Thursday in middle school. So the kids, where they were flying around just experiment, we're going to then have them block code the drones to fly through an obstacle course. And then so 6th grade and 7th and 8th will actually add more computational thinking. So they're both doing web-based coding, as well as then taking a robot and then saying, okay, now how can I take this code and maybe have the servo arm move on this robot, or how can I get this vehicle to drive a certain distance or lift a certain weight, or to take into account maybe obstacles. And then that once again ramps up again in upper school, where students can take everything from comp sci 0, kind of introductory to comp sci as a freshman. And then we have comp sci 1, 2, and 3 ending in our AP comp sci program in upper school.
Well, yeah, the computer science we can get to, because it really is something. But so Luke, you mentioned projects. I mean, lots of these, lots of the activities I do know are project based, even going down to the lower school. What are some examples of things that might be some project based?
Yeah. Well, with one thing, with our 6th, 7th grade innovation course, right? They're part of the curriculum that isn't, or they're classes that they don't get traditional grades, right? So having projects that are really interesting to the kids, that engage the kids, and that hook the kids in a way that that grades don't do is really important for us. And so one of the projects that I like a lot for our 8th graders is they make a Lightbox project, Lightbox project. And what that is they learn how to use Fusion 360, which is essentially the older brother to Tinkercad. So both 3D modeling software. Learn how to use this nice 3D modeling software, and then design a light box. And what that is they learn how to do all the soldering and electronics to make an LED light bulb turn on and have a little switch. And they have to create all the measurements and do the math to make the switch work, to make a box that is functional. And then they create a design on the box, so when they turn the light on, it projects that image, whatever they have, whether it's a bee or a soccer ball, or maybe a logo from their favorite TV show or something like that. So it hooks them in that way, and they use 3D modeling software, they use our 3D printers, they learn about electricity, they do soldering, all to bring this project come to life. So a lot of different things.
That's great. And this is in addition to their math, their science, their social studies, their language arts, and their language foreign language class.
Absolutely.
That's great.
So some of the nice thing about this course is that the kids get to incorporate all those other courses in here. So while you're working on a box, designing a light box, they're going to involve science, whether it's sound and light, and some electronics, which you may learn in science class, as well as a whole plethora of math and having to measure, be accurate, and deal with tolerances. And then we also have them do write reflections on all their projects as well. So there's a writing component, there's a math component, a science component, all in here within you're kind of a make and take project. I get to walk out of here and said, I took this from idea and problem to a tangible object. I get to walk out the door with.
That's a great project. Do they do presentations of, do they all get together and show each other their stuff? I mean, is that part of the?
I would say like for the Lightbox and for the 8th grade in particular, just every day they're working on it and showing each other. And obviously when they're proud of it, they're really showing it off.
Sure.
And with no formal type of show off currently. But with our 6th and 7th grade, we will do that. So like with a 6th grade project, they learn how to use little bits, which are it's an introduction to electricity with these magnetic bits that connect, and they're really cool, awesome project. And then they build like a moving vehicle or something like that. And that's an art component too, is they have to make the coolest, most interesting vehicle that they could make that is aesthetically pleasing. And then that is more of a show and tell where they say, hey, we made this vehicle and it does a specific task that we have taught it to do. And then we're going to make it look cool and interesting as well, and present it to the class, and the whole class gets to vote on it. So we do that.
Oh, good.
6 and 7.
And you use the pronoun we. Is it is it a group project at that point, or is it?
I think that's another huge thing for us is we always have group projects within this. So while students are working and doing things by themselves, also having to do things in a group, share ideas, brainstorm, collaborate. Another really big important thing that we do in our classes.
That's terrific. I actually went to the school, graduated many years ago, back in 1980. And again, group projects weren't a thing back then. I mean, it just, that wasn't how the world worked. But anymore, the projects are omnipresent, both in school, the education setting, and then obviously in the real world kind of work.
I think a lot of our group projects they'll mix sizes of groups. You have mixed gender groups, and then kids are also bringing different mixed skill sets. Where one student maybe want to take the lead on it or feel like they're more mechanically inclined. Another student may have more of the artistic view of it, and they also have to brainstorm and kind of also come to that agreement. Like, well, we could do this, but what if we added this component? And so it just kind of gives them a wider range of ways to attack a project. I think additionally, a project we've done recently in middle school, it actually started more during COVID, was having kids design something that solves a problem, either in their life or in another teacher's classroom or something at home. A common problem was that they needed, if they were at home or in their workspace at home, they needed a desk organizer. So they had to go home and actually measure the space in their desk, figure out what objects they had there, and then design something that could actually kind of organize or clean up their desks. And then once we were back here, there was like, oh, let's make an organizer for your locker. Or go talk to interview your advisor and see if there's something they could maybe need for their classroom. So that was the problem they had, and they were going through the design process, and then also coming back in here, and like Luke had said, since they've been exposed to materials and tools, like, oh, I could make this out of cardboard, or I could make it out of wood, or maybe I want the front to be clear, so I should add acrylic to it, and I'm going to 3D print this part of it, but laser cut that part. And I think the show and tell there was them to then bring this prototype object back to their teacher or back home and say, look what I made at school. And then we'd get awesome feedback sometimes from a parent saying, oh, look what's on my desk now in my office that my child made to solve my problem. And some are still there, and others were like, it was okay. But
yeah, sure. Well, there for a while, there were, as you walk around campus still, you see, I think it was called like Meet a Need, or can you talk a little bit about that? Because it's the same sort of idea.
Right. So there was, actually teachers would come and actually say, I have a problem that I needed the service board needed sandwich board signs, or there's spaces needed around campus where there wasn't maybe seating. And all these things could be solved. We could probably order something to solve that problem. But having a student come and actually talk to the adult and say what's something you may need. Right now, there's one going on with the pool area, so they're going to actually be like storage for like pool noodles and like life jackets and those kind of. It's just the area is kind of not as neat as they would like it. So we're gonna have students actually measure the space, put cubbies and ways to actually store kind of a lot of the pool materials down there. And we'll probably prototype that quickly out of like PVC and then change things as we go. So just a time where teachers can see a problem, or students can actually involve themselves in the greater community on this awesome campus we have, and be able to say, hey, someone mentioned that we should have a bench over here out in the edge of the woods. So let's make a bench. Well, how big should it be? And what materials should we make it if we want it to last long term and be robust? And it's really nice to actually have them let's go from prototype to actually finished product, and so some of these things that are now been, are part of our campus that were
Yeah.
made by kids.
Yeah, I mean, it's super stuff. Very exciting. You also talk about the fact that it's interdisciplinary.
Yeah.
I don't know if this goes on, but I remember a project that the 8th graders did before heading off to Washington, DC. Do we still do the monument project? Can you talk a little bit about that? I think it's cool.
Sure. I mean, so this is one where we are working with another class, right? So Laura Miller, who teaches history just right across the way, during like a 2-week time period where they do a variety of different things, they are asked to make a monument that is, I think it's unique to them and something that maybe DC could use, a new monument. And so that's a very broad ranging topic. And so they are able to come into the makerspace during their history class time and work with us to come up and finalize their plan and their idea, brainstorm and prototype, and then also chat with us about what types of materials they can use, what is accessible to them. And so when you see the final of these types of projects, they are wide ranging in all the materials that are being used, from our laser cutter, woodworking, CNC machines, 3D printers. Every material is in this makerspace is used for this project, and it's a makerspace project through and through, but it's for history class, and it gets to them to involve in what monuments are, do a little bit of history and background, and obviously make a very tangible connection to the trip that they're going to make in just a couple of weeks when they go visit DC and see all these monuments.
Right. My own personal favorite, giving a tour, there was using the 3D printers, there was a pair of boxing gloves for Muhammad Ali.
Right.
You know,
I think one of my favorite things too is when students walk in here, they have the idea, like, I want to make a monument to veterinarians or to an actual person like Muhammad Ali, and they're like, well, here's my idea, and they have a picture often, or they've sketched something down or just some bullet points, but they don't totally know how to bring it to fruition. And then so then we get to talk to them about the materials, like, well, how big do you want it to be? Should we maybe 3D print this part but make that part out of clay, or maybe is it going to be on a base? Like, oh yeah, I didn't think about a base. Well, let's make that out of wood. Or so we can get to walk through that whole process. And I just love that they come in sometimes with this like excitement of a project and say, I have this idea, but I don't totally know how to do it. And then well, let's talk through that process and then point them in the right direction of tools and materials and software, and then to see that come to life. And as they're actually working through it, sometimes to change their mind or iterate, it's just that design process in real time. Once again, for something for the curriculum that they're learning, is just wonderful.
that's great. It actually makes me think also, this makerspace that we're in, lots of upper schoolers use it as well. And when you talk about them coming in with ideas, you get a lot of upper schoolers in here too, right?
Absolutely. Today, after this, there'll be a student coming in to work on. They do a theater tech course that's offered in the upper school. They're actually making props for what do they do? Aladdin this year. So they're making everything from Aladdin's lantern. It's going to have smoke come out of it, to a staff, actually adding lighting to different things. Students are also working on projects for their clubs or sports. There's actually a World Cup 3-on-3 soccer match.
Oh yeah, yes.
Right,
Student council in the upper school has put together this, again, 3-on-3 soccer.
Right. So, and then once it's student motivated, not for a grade, but that student actually came in this morning and met with us and wants to make like medals for the winning teams. So all he had was a picture, and he's like, I remember when I was in 8th grade that we used a laser cutter. I wonder if can we laser cut these medals? So he had the initial drawings today, and so he's going to come back out later on today, actually make those. So once again, just an idea he had on the weekend, sent an email out, said, I know the MakerSpace has this tool. I wonder if I can turn my idea into a real thing in this space.
Well, we had a high schooler, right? She ordered jerseys.
No,
They were the wrong size, or they got misplaced or something. And so she's like, I'm just gonna make jerseys here. So use the vinyl cutter, got heat transfer vinyl, and made her own jerseys.
Really?
And completely on her own. Just a thought process, and said, I have a problem. The jerseys that we ordered didn't come in, and I'm going to solve it by using the MakerSpace.
for the upper school girls volleyball team. It was for their dig pink.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, so they all made those custom jerseys.
That's
here.
terrific. Anika, if you can pause the slide right here for a second, if you can go back to that slide. I'm sorry, the one that was before with there's a little golf course, a little mini golf. Yeah. Why don't the two of you talk? It's one of my favorite. one of the things that's great about Columbus Academy is we are we have 15 grades here, all the way from explorers up through seniors in high school. And one of the things that we always try to do is build community here at the school. And so if you if you talk about, can you guys talk about the little miniature golf?
We started off by we made 9 blank golf holes, mini golf holes, that could either go straight or turn one way or the other. And with the goal of we wanted the students to actually design, give a theme and design a golf course that could be played by our lower school students. And then we'll talk about what we did or how we played for them.
So yeah, I think one of the keywords right that he just said was blank. So essentially for us, this was a way to create a blank canvas for the students to create projects. And this was an 8th grade class. You could call it kind of like a capstone project of you have access to all the materials. And so you can see those are 3D printed bowling pins. They have to create a theme for the course for whatever hole that they were going to make, work in groups of like six or 7, and make 3 or 4 different things. And so we essentially give them parameters of, you need to have the ball go around something, go under something, over something, and then they are tasked with making what do you want that to be? What material are we going to make it out of? And hey, this is going to be played by lower schoolers, so it needs to be robust enough to survive how a lower schooler might treat this course, but also interesting and fun enough to where it's not just like a straight shot at the hole. So they're giving it's a relatively open-ended project with enough parameters around the edge to give them access to the tools, access to the materials, and say, hey, you've learned all of this stuff through the middle school. Now apply that in a very open-ended, fun way, where you get to work with lower schoolers and make a course.
And I think some of the themes were everything from under the sea, outer space, SpongeBob.
SpongeBob was
Yeah, that was great.
hilarious.
We had a whole Mario Kart one.
Pirate ship.
Yeah, the candy one, they made one like Candyland.
Yeah.
And so again, the coming together and the little kids would come up and play the holes. It was a very cute project, and the iterations were fun too.
Actually, in addition to that, this year we're pared it down from 9 full holes down to 3, having students actually make a course. Then we're giving them the Sphero robotic the smaller version, they're actually the size of a golf ball, and the kids are actually going to code the course and have it. So their goal is to try to get a hole-in-one.
A hole-in-one by programming
Yes.
Yeah.
the golf ball to go in.
So once again, tying in our computational thinking and coding with our making and designing.
Sure. Well, you guys are not specifically involved in the upper school computer science program, but David Feinberg and Chris Bolognese and Wade Dennett. It's one heck of a program up in the upper school. Can you guys talk just a little bit about it? And I can fill in a little too.
Sure. And so students there will be exposed to everything from HTML and web design, and then getting into JavaScript and doing working with apps and actually then coding everything from doing like artificial intelligence or machine learning to be able to play euchre, they do also they'll take the AP test in the higher levels, also adding now game design this year. So being able to actually we got to introduce them to retro gaming, and then the upper school actually have them do game design. They actually have a big comp sci show in the dining hall. And we've actually placed arcade systems that are going to be around campus where we're actually going to make the arcade systems here, the actual shells of the arcade system, and backload them with a mini computer, and then have games created by upper school students loaded on there. So students will actually playing game systems that created around campus.
Well, and talking about bragging a little bit about our upper school computer science. I haven't heard what last year's numbers were, but 2 years ago, the students who took the AP, Columbus Academy students took 4% of all of the between 4 and 5%. It's over 4% of all of the computer science APs taken in the state of Ohio. Yeah, from one school, and obviously very, very strong scores.
Right.
So it's good stuff. One of the other things they do in the upper school, and there was a an announcement made today in assembly for the coding club. They're actually going to talk about their bot competition. And this is it's been a tradition for the last few years that computer science, after anyone who's taken the AP course and above, can create a bot to play a different game. And they've been there was Battleship one year. There was Uno,
Yes.
I remember, and I don't know what this year's game is, but everybody.
Hearts, last year might have been Hearts.
Is that right?
Hearts and Euchre was one year.
And so students, create their own little code to put in, and then there's a round robin competition. Ultimately, someone coming up with a big win. It's become a big tradition in the upper school. So one of the interesting things I think about the MakerSpace and the courses here, schools all evolve, right? I mean, they are living organisms. The evolution of technology and the STEM, the STEAM, the innovation courses, that is evolving on steroids. I mean, even just in the last few years, Luke, you've been here, you say your fourth year?
Yeah.
I mean, it's changed quite a bit, right?
Absolutely. It's changed quite a bit. And I think one of the things when you bring back, we talk about like, it's a trendy thing. What's not trendy is being a problem solver, being able to think outside of the box and do that. And so this type of curriculum and how we change it, I think that's an ever evolving topic, is how do we create kids to be able to think on their own, come up with amazing things and be able to think outside of just being, hey, here's a bunch of rules, follow these rules. So I think that's the part that it's trendy now, and it seems like it'll stick, is having kids be problem solvers, creative thinkers. That's the fun part.
We've been talking about how these students at the school, they're technology natives. They're born in the smartphone era, right? They have devices. You can give any of these devices to a 2-year-old and they'll intuitively want to swipe because they've seen mom and dad do that. And we have so many great resources here. So a one-to-one program with iPads and have laptops availability and all kinds of software at these students' fingertips. But it's giving them a reason to use it in a way that's going to solve problems and to become creators rather than just consumers of the content. Because they have all the information known to man at their fingertips. But if we can get them to use it for a purpose, use it for a greater good, use it to actually grow their knowledge base, and then have this be a tool to them rather than just something that they're going to consume.
Terrific. Last thing, Questwork. Can you talk just as an example of how Columbus Academy is trying to bring everybody along? Talk a little bit about the Questworks program.
So Questworks is actually a program mainly open to upper school students, although we've now expanded to 8th grade as well, where a student can actually submit a proposal for a project of something outside of their classroom, not for a grade, that they are interested in. Actually, the original one that happened several years ago was students that were into skateboarding and using scooters, and they wanted to make a motorized skateboard. And so once again, they had that idea, but they're like, I don't know how to do this. And they got them through everything from what types of batteries to use, to rapid prototyping 3D cases for it, to then making a remote control for it, and then realizing how fast it actually went.
It went 20 miles an hour. It was scary.
Right. It actually was beyond the speed limit of our campus. And other students were involved in drones, and everything from RC vehicles, refinishing just furniture. So it doesn't have to be tech-based. There was a student who developed roller coasters and wanted to actually make a prototype of a roller coaster. He ended up making a roller coaster that was over 87 feet long. He actually was designing it in the MakerSpace and outgrew the MakerSpace because it was too high for the ceilings in here. We had to move it to a space in our wonderful art gallery. Right now, there were some students, a group of female students in the upper school that were really into aquariums and aquatics, and so they're actually wanted to create an aquatic environment. So we now have a terrarium and an aquarium downstairs, and they're actually using it as a teaching tool for lower school students.
Fabulous. Well, no doubt this will continue evolving as we go on. It's 12:30, and Anika, are there any questions? I I was counting on you to break in if there were, so I doubt there are questions.
No questions.
No questions. Well, I'm sure we answered them all. Well, thank you for joining us today as we wrap up here. Next week, we are talking about character development and some of the work in our lower school and middle school. We're going to talk with Gabriel Painter, who's the one of the associate heads in the lower school, and Ed Ree, who's the associate head here in the middle school. And we'll talk with them. So that'll go on next Monday at noon. Right now, Luke, Todd, I appreciate your time spent with us today, helping us understand a little bit more about Columbus Academy's technology end of things. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.